Now we turn to a Target 8 investigation. Failing Amber, a mother with multiple sclerosis, dead at the age of 34. But it wasn't her disease that killed her. She was neglected by her state caregiver. Malnourished, dehydrated, and suffering from infected bed sores. The man police say is responsible for her death was sentenced to 2 to 3 years in prison. But could more have been done to save her? Tonight, Target 8 finds the document that could have saved her life. 24-hour News 8's Leon Hendricks reports.
Blonde curly locks, piercing eyes, just like Mom.
She was very ill and she became weaker and weaker, mentally and physically.
In part due to multiple sclerosis, her ability to walk or even use her hands stripped away by the crippling disease. William Masselink Jr., her boyfriend and state-paid caregiver, was in charge of her well-being. He later would be charged with her death. The Adult Protective Service complaints date back to 2004. That complaint that Amber wasn't being taken care of. The Adult Protective Services worker thought it was true even back then. Joyce Lang's name is behind at least one of these complaints. She says Masselink had reason to keep Amber around, even if he didn't want to care for her.
He had so much to hide. He didn't want to lose the money he was getting paid to take care of her, or the drugs that she was being given for her condition.
The complaints continued, as did Adult Protective's involvement. 3 complaints filed, 2 with enough evidence for APS to believe they were true. But investigators say Amber Carey didn't want to leave. Her family believes that's because she was always questioned in front of the suspect and because her condition was affecting her stability.
I believe after a while, a person just they take someone's mind when someone becomes so weak.
On November 19th of last year, a judge advised that she be placed in a nursing home. After that date, Bill and Amber disappeared, and the hunt was on. A month later, Judge Mark Fine ruled that Amber be placed under the guardianship of the state. They would make her decisions. But with the 2 missing, that did absolutely nothing. Grand Haven Police and Adult Protective worked to find the pair. They received an order to search Amber's mother's home and the home where the couple lived in Grand Haven. But they couldn't be found at either place. Police set up surveillance here, and finally, a lead. They say they saw Bill Masselink Jr. coming back and forth to this home. It's the home of Bill and Marilyn Masselink, Bill Jr.'s parents. But in an entry dated February 12th, Adult Protective Services writes that Judge Fine declined to rewrite an order to allow police to enter that home. Judge Fine says he never received that request and handed over the court file and recordings of the hearings to Target 8, in none of which we found a mention of the request is made. But police say the judge may be splitting hairs here, that during an informal conversation, they did ask the judge for permission to go into Masselink Sr.'s home. But they say the judge told them they didn't have enough evidence.
The detective is the one who told me that. And he said that if we could have got her back in December when he was trying to get her, he said there's no doubt in his mind she would still be alive today.
The judge says informal conversations do happen, but he does not recall one in this case. He says if police really wanted to enter the home, they should have submitted a formal request. 3 days after that entry was made, a 911 call from 1425 Woodlawn Commons, the home where police thought she was. Marilyn Masselink called and reported that Amber was having difficulty breathing. An ambulance responded. 8 days later, Amber was pronounced dead. A few days before, her mother got to see her for the first time in a long time.
Her teeth had begun to decay. The first thing I noticed was she had a broken nose, and she was just so frail. She looked like she was about 80 years old.
Fast forward to now, Masselink pleaded guilty to involuntary manslaughter. He had this to say at his sentencing.
I loved Amber. I never did anything to hurt her.
His punishment, the judge went below sentencing guidelines. He says he saw no malice in Masselink's intent and cited Amber's refusal to the care she needed. 2 to 3 years he'll spend in prison.
They should have gave him all day and all night. He killed my daughter. What he should be being charged with right now was murder.
Police say they did talk to Masselink Sr. about whether or not Amber Carey was in his home, but they say he would not answer their questions. Since it all came to court, he has died of cancer. His widow in court for the sentencing. She had nothing to say.
Ma'am, this happened in the basement of your house. You don't want to say anything?
But Masselink's attorney did.
She had numerous opportunities to complain about the care that she was getting from Bill, but she loved him, he loved her.
In the end, he thought it was love.
I loved her to death.
And they haven't found justice, they say, but still can hope for change.
I pray to God that they will step up whatever it is they're supposed to be doing so that this doesn't ever have to happen to anybody else again.
Leon Hendricks, 24-Hour News 8.
Health officials estimate 2 million vulnerable adults are abused, neglected, or exploited each year, though the majority are not reported. If you know someone who is being abused or you suspect that might be the case, call the Adult Protective Services hotline. That number, 1-800-996-6228.